Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good people. How's your heart today? Is your heart good? How's your mind? Is your mind calm and clear? I forgot to bring my phone holder, so the cell phone with the camera, obviously, is being held up by some rocks as we view the sacred creek under the sacred trees by the sacred grove, having a sacred moment. Sacred it is. When you try to go to sleep and you have racing thoughts, that's the topic today, and I'm going to tell you what worked for me. But let me give you a brief chat about how I came to these conclusions. So I've studied neuroscience after watching a documentary that was titled, and is titled, What the Bleep Do We Know?, which is about neuroscience and spirituality. The documentary is called What the Bleep Do We Know? And it's free on YouTube. You could say the neuroscience term is our brains get wired. And last night it came to me that I could describe this to you as we have habits, and our brain gets used to these habits. We have habits. We can break these habits. We can rewire the brain, the mind, to take up new habits, new methods, new ideas, new concepts, new motives. When we start a new method, the wiring in the brain gets overridden, and you begin to rewire your brain with a new method. It's a whole new wiring in your brain. Or you begin to develop a new habit. What worked for me is the same as what I mentioned yesterday. When you wake up in the morning and have racing thoughts. Except now we're going to talk about we go to sleep, we try to go to sleep anyway, and we have racing thoughts. Typically it's negative thoughts. Typically it's about the troubles we're experiencing. Could be emotional, could be physical, all these things. And even for the people who can't stop their mind, when all it does is race with good thoughts, but you don't want that, it interrupts your ability to fall asleep. So we're talking about when we lay down to go to sleep and our mind starts racing, good or bad thoughts. What worked for me to break that habit and rewire my mind was when I laid down to start saying the Serenity Prayer over and over and over and over again until I fall asleep. And it worked. For a while, I had to say this a lot. Until finally, the time it took to fall asleep became less and less. You don't have to use the Serenity Prayer. You could use the Lord's Prayer. You can use a mantra, a positive spiritual mantra, and say it over and over again until you fall asleep. Or a good positive quote, say from the Stoics. You say it over and over again until you fall asleep. I learned I had to push myself. That's not what I wanted to do, because you have to push yourself to say these things over and over and over and over again. But when you see the fruits of your labor, you will be pleased and you will be calm. Because repeating the serenity prayer when you lay down to sleep, or the Lord's Prayer, or a spiritual mantra, or a quote from the Stoics, after a period of time, I want to say a couple of weeks, maybe a little more, the time it takes to fall asleep is less and less. And I got to a point when I laid down to go to sleep, I only had to say it a couple of times, and I fell asleep. It takes a while to rewire the mind. And if you want to understand more about that, please watch the documentary that's on YouTube for free. It's titled, What the Bleep Do We Know? And explains how the mind works. So in essence, we're just developing a new habit, but that new habit is also affecting the mind. We're overriding the old habit of all these racing thoughts with a new habit. And as I mentioned, as time goes on, you say it less and less, and you fall asleep. You fall asleep. Make it an amazing day. Make it an amazing day. It's your choice. It's your decision what kind of day you're going to have. And not just that, make it an amazing life. It's your choice. It's your decision what kind of life you're going to have. Oh, and by the way, you can substitute. You can try this. I don't use the YouTube versions of rainstorms or ocean waves because they have commercials. But you could find on, say, Amazon Video, 9 hours of light rain, 9 hours of thunderstorms, 9 hours of nature sounds, 9 hours of ocean waves. And I use the rainstorms from time to time, just because I'm unsettled from time to time. Maybe I did a lot that day and I'm in a little more pain than usual. And when that happens, you know, we're upset a little bit emotionally from the physical pain, the trials and tribulations of the day. So those things might work for you as well. So make it an amazing life. And have a good life. Keep your heart kind. Keep your mind calm and clear. You will have days. You will have days as you begin this new process, this new habit, this new rewiring of the mind, where it may not seem to work. That's just your mind trying to reject the new habit. It's just your mind that is used to you going over and over again negative things, racing mind, racing thoughts. It's your mind trying to override the new system you're putting in place, and that is repeating the Serenity Prayer or the Lord's Prayer or a mantra or a quote from the Stoics or ocean waves or rainstorms or nature sounds. It takes a little bit to complete this process. And again, I want to remind you, if you want to understand this more, watch the documentary, What the Bleep Do We Know? Neuroscience and Spirituality. Learn how your mind works. Learn how you could get rid of these old habits these old addictions, because at the end of the day, when we lay down and our mind starts racing, that's an addiction we've developed. That's an addiction we've developed. It's a habit. And you can overcome it. So I would hope you would try something like this. It worked for me decades ago. Decades ago. And I could sleep now. I could lay down and go to sleep now without anything, saying anything. Once in a while, I use a rainstorm, as I mentioned earlier. I'll catch you in the next video. I send good vibrations. Stay positive. Keep at it. And again, to understand this a little more, on YouTube is that documentary, Neuroscience and Spirituality. It's titled, What the Bleep Do We Know?